Hey everyone, welcome to Financial Revelations. I am your host, David Szafranski. You can call here, you can call my office. I'm not going to talk to you most likely, but maybe I will. 1-800-344-2534. You can read my book. I wrote a book. It's called The Sin of Retirement, and you can go to sinofretirement.com and buy the book. We have an audio book. You could also get it on Amazon and at other sites, but sinofretirement.com. And there's also merch there. Corey, will you hand me that hat back there? The blue one. You could buy this hat, and it's probably very accurate for you. I have it because it's a joke. I don't suck at investing. I'm actually pretty good at it. And you know, when you do what I do, picking investments is actually it's a part of what we do. It should be the largest part of what we do, but it's not. The largest part of what I do is talking people off a cliff, or talking them out of dumping all their money into one thing because they love it. So I spend a lot of time doing that. But I wrote a book, The Sin of Retirement. You can go to sinofretirement.com. You can buy the book. You can get the audio book if you don't like to read. It's a relatively short book. It's filled with anecdotes and quips and my humor, so I'm sure you'll love it. And then also, a lot of people have been asking me recently about the mission trips, and I talk about them a lot. So people naturally ask me about it a lot, but we go to the Brazilian Amazon. We go to a small town called Maués. You can look it up on a map. It's I affectionately call it a thumbprint of an armpit in the middle of the jungle, but it's not a horrible place. I'm sure there are much worse places, but it has challenges, of course. The people are generally poor. There's a lot of drug addiction, alcoholism. The sex trade is alive and well in South America, but especially places like this. And we go, our church is in Maués, and then we go deeper into the jungle to the indigenous areas, and we serve indigenous communities. Last time we took a dentist, we built a structure there, a little church structure where they could have meetings. Could they build their own structure? Sure, they could. But we didn't, and we worked on our mission base. Our mission base is going to be a place of great intrigue because it's beautiful. It's in the middle of the jungle. We have flush toilet, showers, a well. We're building a school there, and we cemented in a bunch of floors, and we did more in one day than they could have done in 3 months just because we had the manpower there. And there are no cement trucks in the jungle. So how do you make cement in the jungle? By hand. And now we had a mixer, pretty big mixer, but it's taking like 4 and 5 people to load the mixer. Then you dump the cement out into a little trough, 2 people to shovel it into buckets, 4 people to take it over to where we're pouring it. And while we're doing that, there's other people working on some brickwork and the septic tanks and things like that. We are very careful how we treat the jungle. And I don't believe in global warming or climate change. I think climate's always changed, but I don't believe it's man-made. But I still like clean water and clean air. Who wouldn't like clean water and clean air? And we want to be an example in the things that we do. So we capture all of our pollution. On our boat has a hold on it, and we don't just flush the toilet into the river. So, and we live on a boat when we're there, but you can, if you go to Nativos USA, Corey's going to put this website up, even put a picture up of the website, and nativosusa.org. You could see some of the things that we've done. We have pictures up there. You can donate. You could go on a trip if you wanted to. If your church had enough people, or you wanted to tag along on one of our trips, you could go. And we're going next year in April. We have a church that's kind of sponsoring a few trips. So it might not be possible to get on that trip, but there's other trips that we go on, and there's other churches that go that you can piggyback onto. But if you wanted to go dig a well in the middle of the jungle, it's safe. We've never had, I shouldn't even say this, we've never had an injury. I said it. I did it. What did I do that for? Corey made me do it. We're very careful, and we do buy an insurance policy on everybody for health insurance, and if you need to get like evacuated from the country on a medical evac, but hopefully that never happens. We've had things like travelers diarrhea and issues like that, but we're also very careful where we eat. So we prepare our own food on the boat, we shower on the boat, we bathroom on the boat, sleep on the boat. Some people sleep up in the village. I choose not to, but you could. So a lot is going on economically. Number one, I didn't talk about this last week, but Kevin Warsh, I'm going to have to come up with a name for him because I had Chair Powell for 8 years. I mean, I feel like a part of my life has died because Chair Powell is no longer the Fed chairman. Kevin Warsh will get sworn in this Friday. And, I'm sure Jerome Powell, Chair Powell, is a nice person. I'm sure he is. But not everybody is cut out for that job. And I would imagine that the things that he faced were very, very difficult. And there was a lot of pressure in it. But what Chair Powell is going to be known for, and this is coming from somebody who studied economics and the Fed and Fed chairmen and women over the years, we've had some really good Fed chair leaders. And I don't think that Chairman Powell is going to be known in that category. I think he's going to go down as a less than average Fed chairman. He allowed inflation to get way out of control. I love this. So if you've ever seen the Federal Reserve in Washington, D.C., it is a beautiful building. It's pretty big. I would imagine that it would cost $500 million to build today. And he has spent $1.3 billion renovating it. There is fraud somewhere going on. This is how it happens, if you don't know. And I'm not saying Chair Powell is doing this, but I think this is what's happening. Contractors come in, the contractor. The contractor says, look, if you accept my bid that's going to be 40% over the price, I'll split it with you. I'll split what the extra is. And I think probably some of that's going on. And he's going to get investigated for it. And so he's going to be known for a $1.3 billion renovation on a $500 million building. And he's going to be known for runaway inflation. And he had one job. He has two jobs. The Fed has two jobs. The Fed's job is price stability, which means low inflation and full employment. Well, the economy handled full employment for him. He didn't have to do anything. But the one thing that he had to do, which was keep prices stable, he totally failed at. And it took him a long time to catch on. And then when he did catch on, they raised rates at a faster pace than ever in history. And that's what he's going to be remembered for, unfortunately. But again, probably a nice guy. I'm sure his grandkids love him. I'm not going to be sorry to see him go, but he's not going very far because he's still going to be on the Fed, mainly to stick it to Donald Trump, I think, and to protect himself. So that's happening. But more than that, interest rates are going up. And it has to do with the war in Iran. It has to do with oil prices. Oil prices are still fairly reasonable given what's going on. And yesterday, President Trump said, hey, we were an hour away from restarting the bombing. And it makes sense when he said it because it would have been nighttime in Iran. For some reason, we don't need to bomb during darkness because we control the skies, but we do. So they were about an hour away, and a couple of Gulf countries called them and said, hey, we think that we're negotiating with somebody here. And I think that is the problem. I think at the heart of the issue is that the Israelis were so effective at taking out the leadership that the people left to negotiate. I think that there's a faction going that's split here. There's the parliamentarians, the government officials, and then there's the IRGC, which is the religious zealots. I think that they're fighting for control. And because of that, we're negotiating with one side, but the other side has enough power to keep an agreement from going through. So once they see that it's possible that there's an agreement, the 5 drones that they have left, or whatever military might that they have still, gets launched. And that brings the negotiations to a halt. And the IRGC are the ones keeping the straits closed. My feeling is we should be taking out, I don't want to take out the oil infrastructure yet, because once we do get clarity with them, we want them to be pumping oil. We want to bring them back into the world of nations where they could see some prosperity and some normal life. The religious zealots over there are the ones that have the morality police that go around and hit women with sticks if they're not wearing their burqa, or if they're wearing something that they consider inappropriate, which, is probably anything less than a burqa. But before the Shah fell back in 1979, I don't really remember that. I remember the hostages. I was a kid at the time. I remember it was a big deal. And I remember Jimmy Carter sent a rescue mission, and they crashed in the desert. That wasn't Jimmy Carter's fault. It took a lot of guts to send that mission, and it was very unfortunate what happened. And they were dragging the bodies of our soldiers through the streets and things like that. But before that happened, before the Shah fell, it was a very cosmopolitan country. It was like a normal place. You'd see the women weren't wearing burqas; they were dressed like women here, and it was a pretty rich country. Now, they tried to become a military country, and the religious zealots want to kill the Jews, and so they support the Houthis and the PLO and Hezbollah and all these people, and basically they basically killed several generations of people. And now I'm not for nation building. I'm not willing to send your son or daughter to Iran to free the Iranian people. If it's that important to the Iranian people, I think we've done enough. They could rise up too, and that's what I would want. But there are other islands that we could take out. For instance, the toll booth island, which is right at the Strait of Hormuz, we could bomb that. We could put that at the bottom of the ocean. And I think that's what we're going to do. And I hope we do it soon, because interest rates are starting to climb into a danger zone. And if the 10-year Treasury hits 5%, if it hits and sustains 5%, it's kind of that level where you start looking at interest rates and saying, okay, this is going to have an impact. And I know we've only been here, is it even 90 days? I don't even think it's 90 days since we started this thing with Iran. So it's a relatively short period of time. But to get the cadence of oil flow back, it's going to take a month or two. Now, oil prices will fall $20 a barrel the minute we say we have an agreement and the straits are opened. They will, but they're not going to get back to $50 right away. They'll go back to 80. Gas is still a little pricey, but a lot less expensive. And as that cadence of oil flows over the next month and a half, 2 months, you'll see it go down into the 60s. And I think that's probably the equilibrium point for oil. But what we're watching right now, and I'm watching it on my screen behind Corey, is the stock market has been resilient. Oil's still relatively cheap, given what's going on. But interest rates, I'm starting to notice. I went into the bond market again yesterday. I haven't been in the bond market in a while. Like wholesale, like buying bonds, actually buying bonds. For a long time, bonds were the worst investment you could get. The 10-year Treasury was at 1%. Who would do that? Well, other countries would do that, but for an investment purpose, you don't do that. It wasn't even inflation. You weren't even getting inflation in a 10-year government bond. It's stupid to buy that. Well, it's not stupid now. And so what happens is money starts coming out of riskier assets and going into safe assets like the 10-year or the 30-year government bond, and then it sits there for a long time. Now, it doesn't need to sit there for 10 or 30 years, because you could sell a bond before it comes due. And I think what will happen is rates will peak somewhere right around where we're at. And then people will buy that bond when rates come down, bond values go up. You sell the bond, you have a capital gain. I'm keeping an eye on it. And if we do get sustained 5% in the 10-year Treasury, I'm probably going to draw down on some of the riskier assets and portfolios. That's what we're watching right now. And that's, be watching interest rates. Mortgage rates are high again. That's going to have an effect. And I love this administration. I do. They've shut down the border. I love what they did in Iran. We cannot allow Iran to have this ballistic missile shield so that they could have a nuclear bomb, and that's what they were doing. So I love what they're doing. This is the greatest administration of my lifetime. Taxes are lower. All these good things are happening, and I think this will end up being good. But in the meantime, there's going to be some pain. And if I'm going to be true to myself, I've got to say that it's not 1 month of inflation or 2 months of inflation that really hurt. It's the cumulative effect of inflation. Now, house prices were already expensive, so I'm not reading stories about, house prices are up 12% this month. They're already expensive. But when you go through the period of inflation that we had under Biden, and that was long, that was a couple years of inflation, and that did increase house prices, and then you add this on, it's just not good. There is no level of extraordinary inflation long-term that is good. It just is not good. And so I want to see this come to an end. Now, Donald Trump is being extraordinarily patient, and I wish he was a little less patient. I really want to bomb the Iranians and get this over with. And maybe that's not the best attitude to have. And I'm guessing that they have intel that I don't have because I don't have any. I'm speculating about Iran. That what I read, and I read a lot about it, I read from different sources. I read it every day. I read it every night. I'm kind of a news junkie. I like reading the news, and I like reading about this. It intrigues me. But we've got to get to a point soon. And when I mean soon, I mean I would like to see this happen in the next month to month and a half, to where ships and commerce and goods and services are flowing. It's going to have to be. I know what the Iranians are doing, and I would do the same thing if I were them. I would partially negotiate. I would drag it out. I would slow roll things. I would create pain in the United States with gas prices. I would get people angry at Donald Trump and the Republicans. This is what they're doing. And I don't know that he's falling for it or not, but I'm personally sick of, I have a pickup truck. I filled it up the other day. It was like $140. Now, yeah, that's expensive and I notice it, but I'm not going to change my driving habits one bit. But there are people that are. And so you start diverting money from other things and it has an effect. And I think they need to be cognizant of this and look for a solution where Iran doesn't get a nuclear bomb. And if it's by force, then do it by force. I know we can do it. I'm 100% sure that the military presence that we have there could decimate Iran, and whatever IRGC elements are left in the Straits of Hormuz, they could turn them into dust. And that's what I want to do. Because whether you negotiate with them or you negotiate with somebody, those people are still going to be there and they're going to have influence. And so the job of our military is to protect us and protect our interests. And our interests, we have interests in the Middle East. There's just no way around it. We have an interest in the Strait of Hormuz being open. We have an interest, and I don't think, by the way, that Iran would necessarily use a nuclear weapon on Israel, but they would use it in the Middle East. They see what an effect closing this strait down for just a little bit of time would have. What if you detonated a nuclear weapon right there and it was closed down for, let's say, 75 years? Well, it's like your heart. If you have a clogged artery, your heart will build veins and you find a way. But we don't want to go through that. Trust me, we don't. If you think the market's bad on high-priced oil. Wait till they detonate a nuclear weapon and see what happens to the market and your savings and our way of life. So we got to have some patience. My patience is running thin. I'm not going to lie. I'm watching the bond market. You should be too. If you have questions, call here. If you're interested in the mission trip, go to nativosusa.org or call here. We'll talk to you about it. If you'd like somebody to review your portfolio, call here. We have a process that we go through. You can't just walk in the door with your portfolio. We don't do that. But if you do have questions, we can give you an honest opinion. Evaluation won't cost you anything. And read the book, The Sin of Retirement. Every time I reread it, which I just did, I like it even more. And I still laugh at my jokes. My jokes are so funny. I am probably the funniest person that you will ever meet. It's the truth. It's the truth. I am David Szafranski, a real American, a true red-blooded patriot, and the voice you can trust.